So, how do you manage a team when literally anyone can summon facts, data, and fully formed arguments with a single AI prompt? Today, we're going to track the evolution of an idea that completely reframes what a manager's job even is in the age of AI. Let's follow the breadcrumbs of this idea and see exactly where it leads. It all kicked off with this one pretty provocative claim from a tech blog post. And it's a statement that just perfectly captures that modern frustration, right? The manager who wins an argument not because they're right, but just because they're the boss. Well, that single idea set off a whole chain reaction, evolving from a simple complaint into a completely new framework for leadership. So, to really get the new model, we have to first tear down the old one, the I'm right manager. What made this style so common for so long, and why is it all of a sudden becoming totally obsolete? Well, for the longest time, a manager's authority really came from an information advantage. They just knew more, either from experience or from having access to things the team didn't. But the new reality is that AI completely shatters that information monopoly. Now, any team member can use AI to spot flawed logic or find alternative data, which makes that old because I said so approach pretty much useless. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The author's first stab at a solution came from a pretty unexpected place, a video game called Triangle Strategy. In the game, you can't just force decisions. Instead, characters have to persuade each other by appealing to their core values, tipping what the game calls the scales of conviction. And you might be thinking, a video game? Really? But check this out. This concept isn't just fluff. It actually maps directly onto some really solid academic theories. Appealing to utility, what's in it for us, that's the core of expected utility theory. Highlighting liberty and the power of choice taps right into self-determination theory, and arguing from morality or just doing the right thing, that aligns perfectly with moral foundations theory. It's a surprisingly robust framework for persuasion. But look, a clever idea is just a starting point. It has to be pressure tested. And when leadership experts got their hands on this concept, they pretty quickly identified two major flaws in that initial argument. So the first major challenge was aimed right at that core premise. Is an authoritative, top-down style of management always a bad thing? Is it always a sign that someone's incompetent? Well, leadership theory says absolutely not. A coercive or directive style is actually incredibly effective in specific situations, like in a crisis that demands a quick, clear decision, or maybe with an inexperienced team that really needs that structure. So the problem isn't the coercion itself, it's context-ignorant coercion. Real incompetence is using only one style for every single situation. Okay, so the second big assumption that needed a reality check was this. Does giving employees AI automatically make them more rational, better at spotting errors? Is AI really this objective truth finder? Yeah, not so much. The reality is AI often just acts as a mirror for our own biases. People instinctively use it to confirm what they already believe. And even worse, it can be weaponized. A team can generate a flood of AI-backed data, not to find the truth, but simply to overwhelm the other side and win an argument. So this is where the idea really gets good. By stress testing that initial concept against these tough but fair academic critiques, a much more robust and practical model for AI-era leadership starts to take shape. The model that comes out of all this reframes the manager's role entirely. It's not about having all the answers. It's about executing three core functions. First, integrating information. Second, translating values. And third, and this is huge, making the decision and taking responsibility. Let's break each one down. First up, information integration. Now, this is not about knowing everything yourself. It's about being a master curator, skillfully blending AI-generated models, the hard data from the real world, and the crucial human insights from your team to create a clear, evidence-based menu of possible options. Second is value translation. And this is where that whole triangle strategy idea comes back, but in a much more sophisticated way. The manager's job is to frame the debate not as right versus wrong, but as a trade-off between competing but still valid values. Are we prioritizing speed over quality, central control over local flexibility? Just making that trade-off explicit changes the entire conversation. And finally, the responsibility decision. Because after all the data is integrated and the values are translated, someone still has to make the call and own the outcome. This is the irreducible core of management, absorbing the risk and providing that accountable commitment that allows the entire team to move forward with confidence. Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this three-function model actually work in a typical meeting room? Let's walk through a real-world scenario. Let's say a company is rolling out new SAP software. The old school manager, they dictate the one correct template and any resistance is just a problem to be squashed. The new manager, though, performs the three functions. First, information integration. They use AI to generate three distinct scenarios. Second, value translation. They frame the whole debate as a choice between HQ's value of control versus the branch's value of flexibility. And finally, the responsibility decision. They choose a path while clearly owning the risks that come with it. It is a fundamentally different process. And here's the coolest part. You can actually measure this. Instead of just judging a manager on outcomes, you can use new KPIs. How many viable alternatives did they actually present? What was the team's satisfaction with the decision-making process? How much did they shrink the time it took to make a committed decision? This is how you make this new role a measurable standard, not just a nice philosophy. So at the end of the day, why does this all matter? It signals a huge shift. The AI era manager is no longer the keeper of answers or the winner of debates. They are the architect of the entire decision-making process itself. Their value isn't in what they know, but in how they build clarity, translate values, and ultimately take responsibility. The real question is, are our organizations ready to measure and reward this new kind of leader?